My name's Guy Kesterman. As you know, I've been a professional biking kit tester for over 25 years. That's 5 years less than Enduro Bearings have been going. So I was absolutely delighted when Enduro approached me to be a channel sponsor. It's very kind of you guys, but kind of, I guess there's some synergy in the fact that we're both into doing a lot of riding, and by the nature of testing, you ride in all sorts of conditions. So particularly wet and filthy conditions like it is here. So why are Enduro bearings so specifically suited? I mean, you've got the different ranges. You've got Maxhit, you've got the ceramic bearings as well, and the entry-level stainless too. Yeah. But I mean, we've got a tank over there, which is our demonstration with Rusty the diver in there. We'll talk a bit about that later. But gonna let Andrew from Extra, who's the brand manager for Enduro Bearings in the UK, sort of talk us through a bit on the different bearing technologies.
So really the key thing with Enduro is bike-specific bearings. So they are designed for bikes. Everything we do is for bikes.
It's not just a repurposed general commercial bearing.
Industrial bearing. There's a few reasons that it makes sense to buy a bicycle-specific bearing, because they're for loading, higher loads. They don't rotate very quickly, so compared to an industrial bearing, they have specific demands.
But also, there's quite a lot of percussive loading. There's a lot of hammer and impact. Something like a bottom bracket bearing or a headset bearing. It's not only putting a lot of leverage through it, it's also a lot of impact. I mean, that's what you're standing on when you take all the hits. And the same with a headset. I mean, I think headsets have. I mean, we're lucky that headsets and bearings have definitely improved in general. You know, because like I say, you guys were starting kind of with ISIS, wasn't it? Well, that's where it really, when bearings started getting smaller, that's where people really started running into.
Well, we saw so many failures in me at that time. And so Matt, who is the founder, is really good at finding solutions. So he came up with a lot of ideas and things which really helped, bearings to really cope with, find solutions to the failures we had at that time.
Yeah, because even bikes I had on test for like a few weeks then. The bottom brackets could be ruined.
That's right.
Which is
exactly.
So with everything Enduro do, the big feature with an Enduro bearing versus a standard industrial bearing is bigger balls, basically.
It's the Danny Hart principle.
This is a good thing.
So we run, everything runs.
How do Enduro spin with balls that big?
But so even on our standard bearings, we run a bigger ball inside than a standard normal, like whatever industrial bearing, and they run in deeper grooves as well. So it helps with the load capacity. So side to side loads, etc. Basically, everything stays in line. So the wear rate is reduced significantly because it's designed for bicycle use.
Yeah, and because it's a bigger bearing, a bigger wheel or a bigger gear will always run smoother.
Exactly.
And also there's more, and also it just seems like a 29 a wheel, when you got a bigger ball, it rolls a bit smoother. Compared to rolling through a rock garden on a 29 and by a 26.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even on it's on a microscopic level, I guess.
That's right.
I mean,
well, it starts as a microscopic level, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But then it builds and builds and builds.
Yeah.
And you get a failure.
With your spall, I had to look up spalling. I knew what galling was, but I hadn't know spalling's where you get little sort of micro fractures of material coming off. Is that right?
Exactly.
And then that causes galling, which is when you've got like a foreign body in there, which starts the friction.
I mean, essentially, it's like you think of a bearing race, a steel bearing race. It's almost like a pothole road.
Yeah.
And it naturally has potholes in it. And then as the ball runs over that, it gradually picks up parts of the pothole, essentially, and then that's what turns into your galling, essentially. And then as you race, so the bigger the ball is,
the smoother it rolls over.
Over the road. So
and so everything, all that energy. Not only are you losing less energy in there, because I think there's a lot of talk about this you see people spinning bearings online and stuff like that, which is fine when they're unloaded or they haven't been jumped up and down on a lot or whatever, but you don't actually lose that much wattage. I think I saw in your report figures, the actual wattage on a new bottom bracket didn't vary massively. It was like 1 or 2 watts. I think,
this is something that
when they're new is the crucial thing.
Well, day one they're all pretty much the same. There's no question about that. But it is interesting that we don't really tend to talk about watts, these kind of products. And one of the key things for us is to have a product which lasts a long time. And that's a key thing for us, is in terms of, even we talk a lot about sustainability now, those kind of things. Having a product which is not going to end up in a landfill so quickly, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So, that's a key thing.
And there's a lifetime warranty on your bearings.
On our XT15 bearings, and on our 440C Maxhit water bracket and headset. So with our lifetime warranty. Absolutely. And pretty much no questions asked, and particularly on, you take an XT15 bearing, it's a fit and forget. You don't have to service it. You could run it without grease if you really wanted to.
Yeah, because James Wang did that on Bike Radar, didn't he?
That's right, exactly.
And James ex-Angry Asian, his
exactly,
website,
And he surprised so many people, didn't he? With that.
Yeah, he
that
literally
comment.
popped the bearing cover off.
That's right.
Like, let's see how bad things can get.
Well, Matt, who's our founder, he ended up on his gravel bike destroying the seal on one of his front hub, and at the end he said, we'll just leave it, and he's been running for 3 years now with no seal on his XT15 bearings, and it's running perfect.
And that's a ceramic bearing in a stainless steel race, is that correct?
It's exactly. So
but you get those in the bottom brackets and the jockey wheels as well.
Yeah, we also do a headset as well.
Oh, is there a headset as well? Ceramic. All right.
Essentially, XT15 covers any bearing on the bike. So we do it in wheel bearings, headset bearings, bottom brackets.
So who's your customer for XT15?
I mean, potentially anyone, because it's a very unique product in the fact that most ceramic hybrid bearings are a chromium steel race on a ceramic board. So pretty much every other competitor in the bike market is that setup. So the issue, there's two things which, I mean, in the right application, they're really good. They're good bearings, but they need regular service. Because they need grease. Because your ceramic board is actually much harder than the chromium steel race. So it needs to be constantly lubricated, otherwise the balls will eat the grease really quite quickly. But the other issue is corrosion. Because the chromium steel race will corrode, especially in
typical. Well, we are in Britain in summer, and I'm running downhill mud spikes.
Exactly that. Whereas XT15 is actually a development from aerospace technology. So the XT15 is actually the race material, so it's a stainless steel.
A
specialist stainless steel that's infused with nitrogen. And then the way it's made, you end up with an incredibly hard race that then matches the hardness of the ceramic board. So as you use it and it beds in, it actually gets better. It polishes the race as you use it. So they get better with age. But also it's completely corrosion proof. So they use it, NASA use XT15 as part of their spacecraft stuff, because it is designed to be completely, doesn't need service. You can run it without grease, as we said before, and it won't affect the wear rate. That's what makes XT15 completely.
And then Maxhit is more your, as the name suggests, well, Maxhit kind of comes from practice at maximum fill bearing, so you've got the largest bearings in there, taking out, as much of the bearing as possible, but also that's designed for like more high impact, I guess.
So Maxhit, on there, basically is a bearing component. So you can almost think of it as a bearing with a thread on it. So it's a PSA bracket, or a press fit headset,
rather than a cup with a bearing pushed into it.
Exactly. Rather than a traditional aluminium cup that you drop a cartridge bearing into, the outer race is actually the outer part of the cup is the outer race. So what that means is you can run much bigger balls, as we talked about before. So in an industry standard bottom bracket, like any of our competitors, they run 3.175 mil balls.
Those are 4 mil.
Which at least Maxhit, we actually are 4.75 mil.
Just under.
So that increases load capacity massively. It's like 7 times greater load capacity. So for big hit bikes, whatever, just riding in
general battering along the trail.
Perfect for Ard Rock. Where it's wet and gritty, and even if you get grit in there, because of the additional size of the balls and the construction, it basically just crushes stuff down. So it's much more resistant to wear. It's just a great product for you.
But also, I guess everyone thinks, big hit, that's a bigger bike, but actually there's more vibration, there's more kind of impact damage almost coming through on like even like road bikes on rough roads, or even like a gravel bike where you've not got that pneumatic isolation. You're stood on the bottom bracket then, all the forks going in. So we're just talking about sustainability there, and it's not just a case of you doing your own bearings, you also do like upgrade kits for other bearings as well, so like the Shimano ones with the, you know, like a Shimano Holotech with the top hat in. But you were saying because the bearings are very accurately sized, you know, you don't use things like a top hat to fill in the space.
We in any bottom bracket or any bottom bracket bearing kit, we don't use any adapters. So they are properly sized bearings. So if it's a 24 mil axle, we'll have a 24 mil internal on the bearing to match it perfectly.
And you do cinch as well, you do 30 mil as well, and a lot of press fit ones. So that's kind of where a lot of your advances, I think where the name really came to the fore for a lot of people was when you were doing the inserts for just, well, they made press fits work.
Torque tight,
torque tight,
exactly.
So exactly. Torque tight. So it's basically, it's the original idea for a thread together press fit bottom bracket. So, you know, a few years ago there was definitely issues with tolerances within frames and stuff like that. So this really is a solution to creaking.
And rather than battering it in or using an O-ring, it's literally the bearing tightens in on itself and just draws itself in.
You're essentially converting your press fit frame to a threaded frame. It screws into itself. It's a mechanical fit. It keeps everything in alignment. It reduces the chances of creaking.
All the things that were a problem with press fits.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, again, like everything is properly sized. So if you buy say it's a PF30 frame, it will be a PF30 cup, and it will run the correct size bearing. So if it's a dub, it will be obviously a dub size bearing interface. If it's a 30 mil, same. So yeah, everything is properly sized. We also put the bearings outboard as far as they'll go. So because of the torque, obviously on the cranks, you want the bearings spaced out as far as they'll possibly go. Because
like the old holding a broomstick in one hand. Exactly. Why triple clamp fork works. Essentially,
the most support at the right places. So again, it all helps with longevity.
So you got bigger balls further apart.
Exactly that. It's a good way of explaining.
And also, you know, it's not just pop brackets and headsets. You do. I mean, a lot of companies now are using enduro bearings as standard on their bikes. For the suspension bearings.
You know, thankfully, we have a lot of customers in the bike industry. You know, and we're particularly known, obviously, for our pivot bearings. You know, the Max pivot bearings, which really was a paradigm shift. You know, when we brought that bearing out. You know, it was one of the things that really got enduro on the map as far as bicycle bearings is concerned.
And you can and you also do like bearing fit tools. We'll have a look at the sort of tool range quickly at the end, but I know you've provided me with a load of really nice high quality tools, everything like the Shimano cap adapter through to the bearing press fit tools and other, you know, the bearing insert
tools that are needed for working on bearings. And that's we supply really high quality tools made particularly for professional use.
So not necessarily something the customer's going to buy unless they know they're going to be fitting about, but a very nice thing to have if you want them. But
it's a nice thing to have for sure. But you know, not everybody's going to justify being able to spend that much money on those tools. But if you can, honestly,
but then if their bearings are lasting longer,
they're lovely tools.
And maybe, you know, you can always come together with mates.
Well, share it with your mates.
Get one free like your mountain bike club or something like that, and then swap it around
in clubs and things like that. For sure.
And you mentioned briefly about, you know, that's where enduro bearings got on the map for a lot of people. Well, what is the map? I mean, I said at the start you've been going for 30 years.
We've going for 30 years.
So where did we start?
So, you know, a guy called Matt Harvey is the guy who started Enduro Bearings with a business partner, and part of his inspiration, believe it or not, came from on the industrial side. They were making bearings for forklifts.
Right.
And then that particular type of bearing, Matt realised that actually that kind of technology would adapt very well, sized down. Of course. To bicycle pivots, and that's where it really came from. And then from there, it's Matt has been the guy who's been really good at finding solutions to problems that came in the market. We talked about ISIS and the issues from there. And you know, we talked about creaking with torque tight. So
Yeah.
there's been a number of innovations that Matt has come up with over the years. But you know, one of the key things that he's really tried to do from the very beginning, and Matt will say this himself, is that he really wants product to last a long time.
Yeah.
That's, you know, the whole longevity of a product is really important. You know, he wants it to last a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, we know that depending on climatic conditions and all the rest of it, that can be more or less of a time span.
Yeah.
But you know, the idea
I think,
behind
you know, it's mostly English people. It's mostly
Well, yeah,
British
exactly.
people watching this channel.
Exactly.
So, and they know all about those climatic conditions.
You know, so
for
you
sure.
and we've talked about a couple of things. You know, so there's obviously materials choices and what we've done. You know, going with, you know, from XT15, which is we're the only people in the bicycle industry to use that.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got materials, then you've got design principles going into. We talked about Maxhit having the largest ball size.
Yeah.
So it's all of these factors together. Is what Matt has been really good at in bringing over those 30 years into all the solutions that you know with Enduro, and I think in all humility we've forged an important place in the whole bearing industry for bicycles.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're synonymous with really, really good bearings. I can't think of any other bearing supplier who's like, well, within mountain biking, a household name. Essentially. I mean, there are some people who've got, you know, a reputation for good bearings, things like that, and there are people who do a good job. You know, certainly variables. I was quite interested in your report. I think Dub came out pretty well. SRAM Dub. For what they were, I think you were like, you know what?
It did, you know, and in that bearing report, there was a few surprises in there.
Yeah.
And you know, you take for instance that SRAM, it was only $40.
Yeah.
But it came out really well in the test.
Yeah.
So you know, it's good. And you know, that whole test report, you know, the objective wasn't to be chest beating for us.
No.
It was to say, here's the situation. Here's all the testing we've been doing for the last 20 years. Which Matt has been doing this testing in the lab in Oakland, in the factory there in Oakland. And we said, well, this is the time maybe we should start to document this.
Yeah.
And say, well, here's the history, here's what we want to do, here are the test protocols, here's the results of the test, and here are our conclusions.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, like
You know?
a proper scientific.
So I don't know what
study.
saying. And the result of all that is that we are great and everybody else is really not great. That's not the point at all.
Yeah.
We're really trying to say this. We know there's a lot of really good products out there, but we believe in the design concepts and the materials choices that Matt has made over all the years to take us to where we are today.
Yeah, and in the same way, you do a range of bearings. So there are some customers who maybe don't do the mileage, or you know, or who don't do the mileage regularly, that they need an ultra high performance bot bracket, but they'll still benefit from one of the stainless, you know, the entry level stainless steel bats.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole range, you know, of the kind of whole good, better, best syndrome. With bearings, whether it's an ABEC 3 or 5 bearing, or into black oxide bearing, or up into a stainless steel bearing or XT15. There are choices there depending on the conditions you ride in, the amount you ride, you know, where you ride, all those kind of things. You can find a product which really is adapted to you and the budget you have as well.
Yeah, because I know when we were talking through, you know, you guys set me up with bearings and kit from the various bikes. We were like, right, okay, I use this bike this much. This one's going to get a load of mileage. You know, right, okay, that's obviously XD15. This one's going to get a load of hammer.
Exactly.
Right, we'll go with Maxhit on that one, and just like. And then stuff that maybe wouldn't get as much mileage, just simple bearings.
Completely.
Still, but it's still because of the fact you're getting full complement bearing.
That's it.
The engineering tolerance is are much higher. You're still getting a much better result.
At every level, we've tried to give the best engineering principles to make the bearing work as well as possible for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And they're the kind of key points of what we try to do.
So I think it's where we need to go into a deep dive. Pun intended. On Rusty over here. So I'll let who wants to talk through? Andy, Mike?
Yeah, come on, yeah. So let me try and work out where to go.
So this is
Rusty's aquarium.
Yeah, Rusty's aquarium. The Enduro Bearings Accelerated Corrosion Demonstration Tank.
Yeah.
So what we've got going on here, Andy?
So basically, we've been rolling this out since Sea Otter. The first time we did this was at Sea Otter Classic, and it's essentially a corrosion test, a live corrosion test over a few days. So Thursday night when we arrived, we obviously put it together, and then the bearings along the top that are on the hooks, we dropped into the water Thursday evening.
Right. And it's now been Saturday afternoon.
It's now Saturday
afternoon. So
losing track. Saturday afternoon.
Friday, Saturday. Yeah, so it's 2 days.
Yeah. So it's basically 48 hours. Of in there. So for the first 12 hours or so, it was just plain water. Within that time, the first few on the here have started to get some corrosion on them.
Right. Okay, and that's just with plain water.
Plain water.
Wow. Okay.
So it was only about mid-morning yesterday. We actually added salt.
Yeah.
So now it's a saltwater bath. So obviously the whole idea is it's to show humans what happens to certain materials when they are in water. And,
and I think
in contact with weather,
I mean, obviously it's just water coming out of the sky. There's a lot of road salt around.
Exactly.
Even in summer, there's a lot still in the stuff that's on the ground. There's a lot of salt around.
People sweating. You've got energy drinks.
If you're running it in your turbo trainer headset, something like that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so basically we've got obviously some competitors' products in here as well as our own. So most of these are competitors' products. We have our own ABEC 3 in there, which you can see is rustic. It's a chromium steel race. Chromium steel doesn't like water, doesn't like salt water. It's not a good combination. So what that shows is that, if you ride your bike here this weekend and it's wet and it's muddy,
which it has been. If you've not seen the live rider video I did on the tandem, it's definitely been wet and slippery.
But then you go home, you jet wash your bike, you chuck it in the garage, and then in a week's time you get it back out, and your bottom bracket might be a bit stiff.
And people might, and if they haven't lubed their chain, they'll go, "Oh my god, look at my chain." But the thing is, exactly the same thing is happening in all the bits they can't see.
And that's the thing. The reality is you can't take a bearing out. You're not going to take a bearing out and dry it, and then leave it in the garage.
And I guess that's your guy's hardest job. Is that what you do to a bike? All the advantages to deliver it are hidden. Most of the time, like I say, it's not like being chain where you go, "Oh, that lube I used was rubbish because look at how rusty my chain is." Nobody pops them open. Nobody looks inside. I guess.
And honestly, the level of knowledge or awareness of the importance of the bearings in a bike, people don't think too much about it.
It got better enough in some cases, I think. So it wasn't weekly like it used to be. 20 years or so ago, it was when ISIS was out, it was genuinely oh my god, it's lasted a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And once it starts to get a little bit longer than that, then it's like boiling a frog thing, I guess, as well. People don't gradually realise their bearings are getting worse, there's more corrosion.
That's right.
But it's not just damaging the bearing either. If you've got those in a carbon frame or an aluminium frame, if the bearing starts corroding and expanding, then that potentially is quite a dangerous load just as it expands within the system.
Absolutely.
I mean, what this shows you also is the advantage of stainless. So going to a stainless steel material for British conditions, makes so much sense. Yes, it's slightly more expensive. We don't all have to spend
initially more expensive.
In the long term, you're not going to be servicing. You don't need to service that bearings often. I mean, ideally, all of these chromium steel bearings, to keep them actually lasting and a reasonable amount of time, they need service. They need grease and they need to be done fairly regularly. Whereas with the stainless, it's less regular because you haven't got the corrosion aspect going in there straight away.
So you still need to keep an eye on them, in the normal way.
Exactly.
It's still a bearing. It's still going to wear. So if the grease comes out of a stainless bearing, it's going to wear quicker. So ideally you re-grease it, but it's going to last much longer. It's not going to be as affected by general weather.
But in a lot of cases, you provide us spare seals with the kit and servicing. I've noticed that when I've been, unboxing stuff.
When you open up a Maxhit, for instance, Maxhit bottom bracket or seals,
see how well bearing
extra seals in there. So you're encouraged. When you service it, if you damage the seal, at least there's a set in there.
And it just gives you a chance to put a fresh bearing in there.
That's right. That's right.
As you can see, I don't know if you heard off camera there. It's obviously working very effectively to bring people in.
Well, it's a talking point, because people don't understand, that in such a difficult environment for bearings, how quickly they can degenerate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you guys are the kind of the unsung heroes of keeping bikes smooth and running long, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's it. But it's unsung and unseen.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like most people wouldn't have a clue what bearing is in their bike.
Yeah.
You know, whether they wouldn't know whether it was an enduro bearing or anything else.
Yeah. But I guess
until you go to replace
but I
it.
guess that's been helped by the fact that you are, you know, if people do fit an enduro bearing, they will. You know, it's a definite. Oh, it's got an enduro bearing. And when I'm looking through, you know, spec sheets for bikes that I'm testing, so it's like, mint enduro bearing. Don't need to worry about that. Happy days. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the fish tank. To be honest, having a fish tank at a bike show, like it just draws people in because it's like, well, why is there a fish tank
What's all this about?
in a bike show? You know, so it's a great. And it's a brilliant visual example. Just on the bearing graveyard at the bottom.
Yeah.
So these particular bearings have been in this fish tank 4 times now.
At least,
So there's probably done 2 weeks worth actually sat in salt water.
Yeah.
So these are the original ones used at Sea Otter, and they've been at Eurobike, and obviously they've been here.
And they're the difference between the stainless, isn't it? You know, I think even I can spot them.
Yeah. So the Enduro one that's in there is an XT15.
Yeah.
So it is completely corrosion proof.
Yeah.
Stay in there.
So because that's the one with stainless steel bearing race and then ceramic bearings as well.
Exactly that. So that one will not change. So no, I mean it's a great visual example of the advantages of going to a better quality material. So,
And so what's the best, I mean, you do a massive range of bearings. If someone wants to start, you know, you've seen this or they've just heard about the bearings otherwise and they want to fit the bearings to their bike, what stages do they go through to, I mean, can they, are there charts they can look onto their bikes? Or are they best just taking the bike in and just going?
Well, there's lots of options, isn't there? You know, I mean, obviously we would always encourage guys to go to their local bike shop and you know, talk with the experts and get, you know, to help them, you know, to make the right choices and do a diagnostic on their bike. But if they go to our website as well, you know, we have a really good bearing finder on the endurobearings.com website. So there's lots of options, and it's true that, you know, there's a lot of bearing options out there, so it's really kind of hard sometimes to know what you need.
Yeah, because the thing you see often written a lot of times, just get the bearing number and go down your local bearing supplier.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. The bearing size is the same.
Yeah.
So if it's a 6902, it's a 6902. The bearing dimensions are going to be the same, whether it's a industrial bearing.
But like buying a CR2032 battery, it's the same size, whether you buy it off the market for £5 for £1, or you like get a really, you know, you get a really nice lithium-ion one, I guess. So
I mean, the key thing is if you want it to last in a bike, like it's an enduro bearing, is design points.
Yeah.
So that really is the key thing for Enduros.
It's designed for the load, it's designed for the corrosion, it's designed for the impact, and it's not only the proper size bearing, but it's also an oversized bearing within that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was listening then.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you passed the test.
Good. Right, well look, thanks very much indeed for your time, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for supporting the channel.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Things will go more smoothly in future. Not from a video point of view, obviously. I can't do anything. They can't work miracles. But they can work miracles with the longevity and the smoothness of how your bike runs anyway. So, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.